Today let's talk about a theory that originally was not a business theory, but have gained significance due to its general application in every organization. Its name is system theory. So let's begin. Let's look at how this theory works, and what are its elements. System theory is a framework by which one can investigate and describe any group of objects that work together to produce some result. The system theory in business, or the systems approach to management, is based on the idea that everything is interrelated and interdependent. A system is composed of related and dependent elements, which, when in interaction, forms a united whole. The systems theory was developed in the early 60s. The view of organizations as open social systems that must interact with their environments in order to survive is known as the systems theory approach. Organizations depend on their environments for several essential resources, like customers who purchase the product or service, suppliers who provide materials, employees who provide labor or management, shareholders who invest, and governments that regulate. This theory implies that, in an isolated system, the system will gradually become more and more disordered until it reaches maximum entropy. That means, system tends to run down, deteriorate, and move towards disorganization with time. For example, you can look at your body as system. If you don't take care of your body, does not shower, exercise, or eat healthy food, you will get sick. Thus, it is same in systems of organizations. To maintain balance and equilibrium, or homeostasis, energy, resources, information are required to be put in the system, so that system does not run down. The different parts of the system are called subsystems, which are interrelated. Further, various subsystems are arranged according to a scheme, so that the complete system is more than just a sum of its parts. There are two types of systems. First is open systems. These are the systems which interact with the environment they operate in. Second is closed systems. These are the systems which have no interaction with their environment. An organization is an open system, as it continuously interacts with its environment. Therefore, in order to understand an organization, one must identify its boundary. An organization has several subsystems like technical subsystem, social subsystem, etc. Mostly these systems are interdependent and related to each other. They must operate coordinately towards organizational goal. The subsystems of an organization are interconnected and collaborated through various processes as described below. First, communication. It is an effective mechanism which links all the organizational subsystems together. It involves receiving messages from the external environment and sharing this message within the organization. It also works as a control and coordination mechanism to link the decision centers in the system. Second is decision making. This is another important process for linking various parts in an organization. In fact, the decision to produce depends on the interaction between individuals and the demands of the organization. Hence, the decision of an individual to participate in production depends on the demands and rewards of the organization. Third, balance. Balance is an equilibrating mechanism which allows the different parts of the system to stay in a harmonious and structured relationship with each other. It helps in ensuring integrity in the face of a rapidly changing environment. The significance of assessing each element and its connection with other elements in the system, as well as with the outside environment, is very high. Organizations which fails to understand the system theory and its implications often ends up lacking behind. Let's look at the example of People's Express, a low-cost airline that was thriving in the early 1980s. People's Express, by offering rock-bottom airfares, was capturing much of the new airline business at the time. The low-cost airline was able to do this because it offered employees low salaries, coupled with company stock as part of their compensation. People's Express employees were well satisfied with their compensation, as company stock was on the rise, and provided excellent customer service. But as the growth in the airline industry slowed in the mid-1980s, so did People's Express company stock. The company's stock price began to plunge. Dissatisfied and now undercompensated employees began to provide poor service. People's Express's business began to decline, and the company ceased to exist in 1987. People's Express management failed to understand the application of system theory. Management failed to realize that employee compensation, and indeed the fate of the entire company, was intricately related to the value of the stock price, and the value of the stock price was interconnected, or related, to the slowing of growth, in the airline industry as a whole. It could have slowly raised employee-based compensation to compensate employees, as stock prices decreased. As a result of this oversight, the once high-flying People's Express no longer exists. Moving forward, we can understand an entity's interaction with its environment as an input-output model. Inputs are energy, information, and materials which the organization takes from the environment. It then transforms them with the help of people, machines, and supplies the output to the environment. Further, the reaction of the environment to the output is the feedback mechanism, using which the organization can evaluate and correct itself. An open organization monitors its environment, and collects information about environmental deviations, that is labeled as input. Input can also be thought of as a form of feedback. The most important information is negative input, according to systems theorists, because this information alerts the organization to problems that need to be corrected. Negative input tells the organization that it is doing something wrong, and that it must make adjustments to correct the problem. While positive input tells the organization that it is doing something right, and that it should continue or increase that activity. Organizations then organize and process this information to formulate solutions or responses to these changes. Processing positive and negative input to adjust to environmental change is called throughput. In the throughput of information, the organization analyzes it and tailors it strategically to fit with the organization's goals, values, and within the relationship context it holds with public. Organizations then organize and process this information to formulate solutions or responses to these changes. After an organization adapts to environmental changes, its actions and messages represent its output. Output generally includes goods and services offered by the organization. However, it may also include an effort toward betterment of society as a whole. For example, if an automobile manufacturer wants to contribute towards environment, it may initiate the manufacture of electric or green vehicles, which are not hazardous for the environment. So, it may also become the output. Thus, in order to survive in a dynamic environment, organizations must adapt and improve. Further, if we look at the case of Nokia, it failed to adapt to changing smartphone, while Samsung and other companies recognized the need for smartphones, having Android, and got the advantage, while Nokia lost considerable market share. An organization measures the effectiveness of its output by seeking feedback. If its actions and messages were not effective, then the process is repeated until the appropriate solution is found. If the organization is not able to adapt to the environmental variation, then it will eventually cease to exist. The public relations professional engaged in an organization that takes a systems approach is continually focusing on feedback as a way of measuring organizational success. Thus, understanding the systems theory's approach and interconnection between organizations and elements of outside environments is necessary for organizations' survival and growth. Please leave a like and subscribe the channel if you want more contents like this in the future.